Hi, I want to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop. I don't know if you guys remember this story from the 2020 election, but it was one that I didn't really pay much attention to or follow at the time, mostly because it was about Hunter and Joe Biden was the presidential candidate, not Hunter, so it seemed kind of irrelevant to me. And it took a while. I mean, what, like an entire election cycle before I realized that the real story there, or at least to me, like what was relevant to me was not the shady business dealings with Joe Biden or Hunter Biden, but the suppression of the story, on social media platforms. So what happened was that when this story broke, Facebook and Twitter were both deprecating the story in their algorithm, which means suppressing it and making it less likely to be seen. Twitter in particular actually ended up taking it a step further and completely banning the story so that you couldn't share it, not only publicly, but even in direct messages. You could not share the story because so the idea was that it was supposed to be like Russian disinformation, because the FBI had been working with social media platforms and warning them of a Russian disinformation campaign and telling them, hey, like don't push these stories up, these are wrong. And what happened with the Hunter Biden story was that the FBI had had Hunter Biden's laptop since basically they had it long enough to know that it was a true story. It wasn't Russian disinformation. And after the FBI being the ones to initially go to these social media platforms and telling them, hey, watch out for this, they then neglected to do their due diligence in telling these social media platforms that Hunter Biden's laptop, it was accurate. It was a true story. It wasn't Russian disinformation. I did find some sort of information about how the FBI told some people at Twitter, but like that information wasn't widely circulated among the appropriate people at Twitter. They didn't tell Facebook. They refused to answer questions like when the social media platforms would ask, is this Russian disinformation? And so as a result, this story essentially got suppressed until after the election. And that's a problem because I have found, I'm not sure how to describe this, that there's been some surveys done afterwards of well, not just Democrats, but Democrats I think are the ones that matter because they're the ones who voted for Biden and might not have voted for Biden if they had had this information. There's one survey I found that said that 71% of Democrats would have likely changed their vote if they knew. I don't want to place too much stock in this because from what I remember, there were some issues like with that survey. Like, is this really an accurate sample size, an accurate representation of what would happen? Not to mention that in the 2016 election, all the surveys were saying Clinton was going to beat Trump and then she didn't. So how much do you even believe surveys? But I think the point I'm trying to make is that this was a news story that very likely could have changed the outcome of the election. And even if it didn't change the outcome, it would have influenced people. And when you're getting ready to vote for someone and you're trying to just gather together the information that you need to know to make an informed decision, and the people in charge are keeping that information from you, that's bad. It's bad. And what's more is that it doesn't feel to me like it was an honest mistake. That it was, I mean, I don't know how much you want to blame the FBI and how much you want to blame Twitter. It sounds to me like the FBI is the primary people at fault. I've heard, I think, some other stuff about the CIA and other intelligence agencies maybe holding this back too. But my point is that there were people in a position of power who were being trusted to suppress the right information and put out the right information, and they didn't do that. And it strikes me as something deliberate. I I don't want to go and be a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. You can make up your own minds about why you think this happened. In my mind, what I'm envisioning is if you think that this information might sway people to vote against the candidate that you think is going to be best for America, that you're sort of maybe telling a white lie. You're not even telling a white lie so much as just like not being 100% honest, but the net benefit is going to outweigh the bad because you're going to get the right person in power and then they're going to do good things. That's just my own theory. It could be completely wrong. I will let you make up your own mind. But the bottom line was that Americans were not being trusted to make the right decision based on all the accurate information. They were being only given certain information and then said, hey, make your decision based off of this. And that's where I see the problem that I think is just, I'm seeing it too much. I'm seeing it too much of just people in charge not giving us the information we need to make the best decision. And it appears to be deliberate. And that concerns me. And I guess I'm also curious what everybody else thinks. One thing in particular that I'm just sort of wondering about, maybe because I just don't have enough information to make an informed decision on this, but I don't know, like I guess I'm wondering if like how much Russian disinformation was there? Because if there was like 30 different stories that needed to be suppressed and 29 of them really were false stories that needed to be suppressed, I don't know that it's really gonna help the American people to put out like 30 false stories and then you got to figure out what's the true one in all this. I imagine it's not that much. My guess is that we might be better off just sort of being given information and letting us make up our own mind of, does this look like a reputable source? Can you trace this back to its original conclusion, find the context, find out what's really going on? But I don't know. Like, what do you guys think should be done about all this?